In the darkest forests of our world, the air feels different. It's heavy, alive, as if something ancient is breathing beneath the trees. When the wind whispers, it doesn't just move the leaves, it speaks, and sometimes it calls your name. For centuries, people have wandered into the woods and never come back. Locals say the forest remembers every step, every breath, every scream. Some claim they've seen eyes, glowing, unblinking, watching from the shadows. Others hear footsteps behind them, soft but deliberate, as if something walks when they do, and stops when they stop. Welcome to Animal Ranking Hub, where we journey into the untamed corners of nature, places where myth and reality blur together. Tonight, we're not just talking about animals, we're talking about the Watchers, beings that hide between science and superstition. From the icy peaks of the Himalayas to the humid jungles of Puerto Rico, these creatures have haunted the edges of human understanding for centuries. Stay until the end, and you'll see why legends refuse to die. Because sometimes, the only difference between a story and the truth is that one of them is still out there, watching. Bigfoot, the silent guardian of the pines. They call him many names. The Sasquatch, the wild man, the silent guardian of the pines. But in the endless forests of the Pacific Northwest, he's not a myth. He's a presence. It begins with a sound, a deep, chest-rattling knock echoing through the trees. Then silence. Not the kind of silence that comforts you, but the kind that listens back. Campers talk about the feeling of being studied. Hunters leave the woods early, swearing something was pacing them from the ridgeline. Even the animals go quiet when he's near, as if the forest itself holds its breath. The first recorded sighting dates back to the 1800s. But the real wave began in 1958, when massive footprints, each nearly 2 feet long, were found near Bluff Creek, California. The plaster casts are still kept today, heavy reminders of something too big to be human and too precise to be fake. In 1967, 2 men captured what would become the most debated footage in cryptid history, the Patterson-Gimlin film. A shaky camera, a creature striding across a clearing, turning its head once, a glance that burned itself into America's subconscious. Skeptics call it a hoax. Believers say you can't fake the way it moves, the weight, the rhythm, the look in its eyes. But the truth is, no one knows. Because every time someone goes searching for Bigfoot, the forest seems to close around them, as if it's protecting something. What if he isn't a monster at all? What if Bigfoot is the last sentinel of the old world, a guardian that watches humanity from the shadows, keeping the balance we forgot how to respect? Scientists have tried to dismiss the legend for decades, but new audio recordings, low, guttural roars echoing through Washington's valleys, continue to surface. DNA samples come back unknown primate. And yet, no body, no bones, no proof. Just the endless whisper of trees and that haunting sense of eyes in the dark. Maybe Bigfoot doesn't want to be found. Maybe he's the forest's secret, a reminder that not everything that walks on 2 legs belongs to us. So if you ever find yourself alone beneath towering pines and the wind suddenly stops, don't move. Because in that stillness, you might realize you're not the one doing the watching. Chupacabra, the bloodless hunter of the night. The night falls different in Puerto Rico. The air turns thick, electric, like the island itself is holding a secret. And when the livestock start dying, the people whisper one name, Chupacabra, the goat sucker. The first reports came in 1995. Farmers found their animals drained of blood. No mess, no struggle, just 2 puncture marks, small and surgical, as if something intelligent had fed. Not a wild beast, not a vampire. Something in between. Witnesses described it as short, gray-skinned with glowing red eyes and spines running down its back. A creature both alien and animal, like evolution had taken a wrong turn. Others said it looked more like a sick dog, furless and starving, its body twisted by disease or mutation. But every story shared one detail. It hunted at night, and whatever it was, it knew where to strike. By the summer of that year, panic spread like wildfire. News stations broadcast shaky home videos, a blur of movement, a flash of eyes reflecting red in flashlight beams, livestock carcasses piled up. Scientists called it coyotes. Locals called it something older. And then, the disappearances began. Small pets vanishing without a trace, tracks leading nowhere, footsteps in the dust outside bedroom windows. Always the same whisper on the wind. El Chupacabra. Investigators brought thermal cameras, traps, and tranquilizer guns. they left with nothing but fear. One team in the hills of Kinavanas claimed to have recorded its scream, a high-pitched, unearthly sound that pierced through the night and echoed for miles through the jungle. The tape exists. You can still find it online, if you can stand to listen. Modern DNA tests tell another story. Some bodies said to be chupacabras turned out to be mangy dogs, but a few samples returned inconclusive, showing genetic anomalies no one could explain. Too different to classify. Too strange to ignore. Maybe it's not one creature. Maybe it's a curse, a shape born from fear itself, a reflection of our need to find monsters where reason ends. Because monsters are easier to face than the truth. And yet some nights in rural Puerto Rico, farmers still hear movement in the dark. They find the same 2 puncture wounds, the same bloodless bodies, and the same feeling that something is out there, something hungry, patient, and waiting. So if you ever wake in the middle of the night and the dogs have gone silent, don't look out the window. Because by the time you see the red eyes, it's already too late. Mothman, the winged omen, Point Pleasant, West Virginia, a quiet river town wrapped in fog and old secrets. But in November 1966, the silence broke. 5 men, working at a cemetery at dusk, saw something rise from the trees, a shape taller than any man, wings stretching 12 feet wide, and 2 red eyes that glowed like burning coals. When it moved, the air trembled. When it looked at them, they froze. The men ran. But the fear stayed behind, nesting in Point Pleasant like a sickness. Over the next year, the creature returned again and again. People saw it gliding over rooftops, chasing cars along the highway, perching silently on old steel bridges. It had no face, no sound, only those eyes, unblinking and red as warning lights. They called it the Mothman, and wherever it appeared, something terrible followed. December 15th, 1967, the Silver Bridge collapsed during rush hour. 46 people plunged into the icy Ohio River below. Witnesses swore they saw the creature hovering above the bridge the night before, as if it knew, as if it was trying to warn them. After that day, Mothman vanished. No sightings, no evidence, only whispers that he returns before disaster strikes, a harbinger rather than a killer, a messenger none of us want to see. But what if Mothman isn't a curse? What if he's a reflection, the shadow of humanity's guilt and grief, the shape of every tragedy we pretend not to see coming? Researchers have tried to explain it away. Sandhill cranes, owls, misidentified aircraft. But you can't mistake those eyes. Everyone who's seen them says the same thing. They don't shine at you. They shine through you. And sometimes on cold winter nights, when fog rolls over the Ohio River and the lights of the bridge flicker in the distance, locals say you can still see a dark silhouette soaring overhead. Silent, massive, and patient. Maybe he was never gone. Maybe he just waits until the next time humanity forgets to listen to the warnings hidden in its own nightmares. So if one night you hear wings above your car or glimpse red eyes watching from the trees, don't look away, because Mothman never appears without a reason. And the question isn't what he is, but what he came to warn us about next. Kraken, the terror of the deep. The ocean has no memory. At least that's what we like to tell ourselves. Because if it did, it would remember what sleeps beneath it. Long before satellites and submarines, sailors whispered about a monster that rose from the black water like a mountain of flesh. Tentacles thicker than ship masts, eyes the size of lanterns, and a hunger that swallowed men whole. They called it the Kraken. The Norsemen believed it lived off the coasts of Norway and Iceland, lurking in the deep where sunlight could never reach. When the sea went unnaturally calm and birds vanished from the sky, that's when they knew the Kraken was near. One wrong current, one unlucky voyage, and an entire crew could disappear without a scream or a trace. Just the slow churn of bubbles rising from below. Modern minds say it was nothing more than myth. Stories to explain shipwrecks and storms. But then came the photographs. Grainy shapes pulled from the abyss, tentacles longer than city buses, eyes glazed white from pressure and darkness. The giant squid, Architeuthis dux, was real. And if the stories were exaggerated, they weren't lies. Even now, deep-sea drones record shadows that stretch beyond their lights. Something enormous moves just beyond the edge of the camera. The ocean floor trembles, and sonar picks up echoes that shouldn't exist. A biologist once said, "The deep sea is the only place on Earth where a creature the size of a legend could still hide, and we'd never know." Because down there, we're blind. The pressure crushes steel. Sound bends in strange ways. And time doesn't matter. It's a world that doesn't belong to us, and maybe never will. Some sailors say the Kraken isn't just a creature. It's the ocean itself, the embodiment of its hunger, its silence, its endless pull. A god we forgot how to fear. So when you stand on the shore and watch the horizon and the sea looks too still, remember that calm water is a liar. Because sometimes the deep doesn't sleep, it waits. And if you ever hear the faint creak of ropes tightening or the low moan of waves rising without wind, it might not be the storm coming. It might be the Kraken, stretching awake, wondering if it's time to feed again. Yeti, the white phantom of the Himalayas. The Himalayas don't forgive. They don't forget either. Up there, among the ice and wind, time stops, and sometimes something else moves when it shouldn't. They call it Yeti, the abominable snowman, the white phantom. For centuries, the Sherpa people have spoken of a creature that walks like a man but leaves footprints too large, too heavy, too perfect to belong to one. They say it roams the frozen ridges, watching travelers from the mist. When snow begins to fall without sound, when your breath fogs and disappears too quickly, that's when it's near. In 1951, a British expedition led by Eric Shipton captured a photograph, a line of enormous footprints stamped deep into untouched snow high above the tree line. No one could explain them. No animal known to science could have made those tracks. And yet, there they were, frozen proof that something else walked those peaks. Decades later, climbers still tell the same story. A silhouette glimpsed through a blizzard, a shadow that moves against the wind. They describe a smell, sharp, musky, the kind of scent that means alive, but not human. And at night, when the mountains moan under the weight of their own ice, some swear they hear a second echo to their footsteps. Scientists have searched for answers. Hair samples, bones, DNA. Most results point to bears, wolves, or goats, but a few come back unknown primate. And always, the traces vanish before anyone can follow them. But maybe the Yeti isn't meant to be found. Maybe it's not a monster at all, but a guardian, like Bigfoot, a reminder of what the Earth looked like before we arrived. A creature that refused to leave when the rest of its kind went extinct. A watcher, patient and ancient, waiting in the white silence. There's a story among the Sherpa that when a man dies lost in the mountains, his spirit wanders until the Yeti finds him. It kneels beside the body, covers it with snow, and whispers the mountain's true name.
What if they never
After that,
left?
the soul can rest. So if you ever find yourself on those cold slopes and the wind suddenly goes still, don't shout, don't move. Just listen. Because up there, in the thin air between worlds, something old is still listening back. And when you see footprints that end in the middle of nowhere, it's not that they disappear. It's that the Yeti no longer needs to walk where men can follow. Interlude. What if they all are still watching us? What if they never left? The forests, the deserts, the mountains, the oceans. Every corner of this world hides something ancient, something that remembers what came before us. We call them monsters. We make movies, write books, and laugh about the things that go bump in the dark. But deep down, we tell these stories because a part of us still believes. Maybe that's why Bigfoot keeps his distance, because he remembers the time when the forests belonged to him. Maybe the Chupacabra hunts not for blood, but for revenge, for the animals we've taken, for the wild we've tamed. Maybe Mothman doesn't bring death at all, but tries to warn us before it comes. And the Kraken? Perhaps it's not a beast, but the ocean's way of reminding us how small we truly are. And the Yeti? Maybe he guards the last sacred places we can no longer reach. Each one of them, watcher, guardian, or curse, stands as a reflection of what humanity fears most: being forgotten, being watched, being powerless. What if the legends never died because the creatures never did? What if they learned to hide, to shift, to survive in a world that no longer believes in them? We look into the dark and see stories. They look back and see what we've become. Sometimes late at night, when the house is quiet and the world outside feels heavier than usual, you might catch it, that feeling. The hairs on your neck rise. Your heart beats too fast. You tell yourself it's nothing, just the wind, just the house settling. But you know better, because for one brief moment, you felt the eyes. Maybe they're not gone. Maybe they never were. Maybe they've just been waiting for us to remember that once, long before we built cities and named the stars, We were the ones being watched. The forest breathes again. The wind moves through the trees like a whisper of old names. Bigfoot, Chupacabra, Mothman, Kraken, Yeti. Echoes of something that refuses to fade. Maybe they were never meant to be found. Maybe the mystery is the point. A thread that keeps us connected to the wild, to fear, to the feeling that there's still something out there bigger than us. We've mapped every continent, conquered mountains, split atoms, walked on the moon. And yet, we still look over our shoulders when the night grows too quiet. We still lock our doors, listen for sounds that shouldn't be there, and wonder what else walks in the dark. The Watchers have always been here. They were here before us, and if we're not careful, they'll still be here long after we're gone. So next time you wander into the woods, stand on a lonely beach, or gaze into a snowy mountain pass, listen. Because sometimes the silence isn't empty, it's waiting. And if you ever feel eyes on you when no one's around, don't panic, just smile. Because somewhere out there in the spaces between myth and memory, they're still watching, and maybe, just maybe, they're protecting something we've already forgotten how to see. This is Animal Ranking Hub, where the wild, the mysterious, and the legendary still breathe. If you've made it this far, you've looked into the dark and not turned away. Subscribe now, because next time, we're going even deeper. And trust me, you'll want to keep the lights on.